hello. We'll give it a second for everything to get going and actually live. I hope that everybody had a fantastic weekend and a safe and happy 4th of July. Today, we're going to be talking about maybe one of my favorite sort of motivational things. I've been thinking about sort of my students lately and kind of my own journey, and I think this is going to be a really powerful one, and again, just a little shift and a little thing to focus on and think about that can make a really big difference in your playing. And kind of all of this centers around the question of, is it correct? And spending more time with the music to make sure that it is actually correct. So let me paint the picture here a little bit. When we're practicing something, it's easy to sort of get in the zone where we get a new piece of music and we pull out the clarinet and we start going at it and we start working through it. And I think this is one of the things that really differentiates the advanced players from the intermediate and the beginning players. And for me, actually, it was really a few times throughout my journey. I remember very distinctly practicing an all-county honor band piece. I think it was my sophomore year. I'm pretty sure it was my sophomore year of high school when I was learning that one, or maybe the summer before my sophomore year, where instead of just playing through it and going at it, which is normally what I would do, is just sort of get the music and start playing it and pretty much just be fixing mistakes as I went and figuring it out. But this was the first time that I actually really looked at the music, figured out how it went, and then did that on the clarinet. Same thing happened a lot in college when I started having to learn a bunch of music, and I was starting to gain more experience so that I could actually learn it more quickly. And then also, again, really quite dramatically, it happened during my master's degree and even a little bit after that. And honestly, it's something that I'm still thinking about and still exploring and still working on. But it was when I really started to figure out that the music is something different than the clarinet. And this, again, I think is the big pivot between a beginning and intermediate player to a more advanced player. And it's that shift from going from, am I playing the clarinet well? Is the clarinet playing correct? To, am I actually playing the music correct and doing the music correctly? And I think all throughout the journey, there's sort of different levels of that and different layers to that, where sometimes you're focused more on just getting this tricky rhythm and actually sounding really bad. So you have to go back to the clarinet and focus on that a little bit more. But I think more often than not, for beginning and intermediate players, they're much more stuck in the, is the clarinet playing correct? And they're thinking to themselves as they're playing through their music, they're thinking, okay, that's nice. I'm getting a good sound. I know the fingerings, like that's awesome. But they forget to ask the question, is that actually how the music goes? And that's, I think, one of the big things that I really took away from my master's degree, was really going deeper in, how does the music actually go? At that point, I could play most things on the clarinet, but how does the music actually go? How should it actually come out? When I see a staccato, what does that staccato actually mean? When I see a crescendo, I'm not just arbitrarily getting louder because I can play the clarinet louder, but what does that crescendo actually mean, and what purpose does that crescendo serve? So that's the kind of more high level, talking about it with the style, but it goes all the way back to the simple stuff, thinking about rhythms and notes. Is that actually the correct rhythm? Is that actually the correct notes? Did I check the key signature? Are the accidentals carrying through? And if you've ever played a piece and mislearned a rhythm or mislearned an accidental and had to go back and sort of notice that it was wrong and fix it, then you've done exactly what I'm talking about, where you're a little bit too much in a hurry to just start throwing it on the instrument and need to spend more time with the music, diving into really getting a clear idea of how the music goes. And so that's what I want to encourage you and sort of motivate you to do on this week's Live Monday Music Motivation, is to really take more time with the music, take more time to figure out how the music goes and get it correct. And it's okay to do a little bit of playing in there and playing through the notes to kind of hear the pitches and get an idea of where it goes. What does that sound like with the F sharp rather than the F natural, or the B flat rather than the B natural, or whatever the thing may be. Totally fine, but really make sure that you have a concrete idea of how the music goes, because it's so much easier to play it in the first place and make sure that you're learning it correctly when you know what you're aiming for. The analogy that I always use with my students, that's one of my favorites, is if you're throwing darts or shooting an arrow or whatever, throwing a ball at a target, if you were doing that blindfolded and you couldn't see the target, that would make it infinitely harder. And that's what a lot of us are doing when we approach a piece of music and we just start playing it. We're throwing, and kind of eventually we realize, like, oh, I think that was the target. I think I hit the target. But we aren't taking the time to actually visualize the target, know where the target is, open our eyes and look at the target. And then it's so much easier to hit it, and so much easier to know when you aren't hitting it as well. So think about that. Think about how to do that. And the way to do that is through audiation and looking at the music and hearing it in your head, listening to recordings so that you, again, know how it goes. Even if the recordings are much faster than you're going to be playing it at, you can still start to hear sort of the harmonies, hear where the notes are going, hear how the rhythms go when they're precise, and then slow that down, connect it to the steady beat, audiate it in your head, paint that target, and go for it. So that's what I want to encourage all of you to do this week. And it doesn't have to take a lot of time. Spend just like 5 minutes spending a little bit more time thinking about the music before you play it. And again, you can even get warmed up. You can even play through it once, but multiple times throughout your practice, pause and say, okay, I'm going to remove the baggage of the instrument. I'm just going to look at the music and paint that picture and know that target that I'm aiming for. So that's your challenge for this week. Now, of course, don't forget to fill out your practice template as well. So here's what mine looks like for the week. And again, in your goal, you can put pay more attention to the music. Spend 5-10 minutes a day without the instrument, just thinking about the music. Things like that, you can also put that into your plan. But the way that the template works, if you aren't familiar with it, is we have the date for the week, reflection of how things are going, goal for what to focus on, and then your plan for when you're going to do it. And with this, you can go to quickstartclarinet.com/get started to get this exact template, or of course, make it for yourself. And the most important, the most powerful part of the template is to take that plan, put it in your calendar, put it in your planner, set reminders for it, do whatever it takes to really commit to practicing those times. And now that you have a plan, you know exactly what to be practicing and when to be practicing it, so that you can make your goal for this week happen. And when you keep making those goals, reaching those goals one step at a time, then you'll get where you want to be. And I think a great goal for you for this week is to get a clearer image and a clearer idea of how the music goes on everything that you're working on. So thanks so much for watching. I hope that you have a fantastic week of practice. Fill out your template right now, or again, set a reminder for when you have time to fill out your template. Have a fantastic week of practicing. Have a happy Monday, and I will see you all next week on the next live Monday Music Motivation. Happy practice.